Tēnā koutou katoa. It is International Women's Day week or month, and we
Mm.
thought it would be a fabulous opportunity not just to shine a light on some of the current issues and challenges we face in this space, but also chat about the work that we're doing in the mobilized space, and particularly how we accelerate action and continue to march forward. Because I think, when I have this conversation every year around International Women's Day, around how the progress has been slow, and we are making progress, it's heading in the right direction. But historically, we've seen the mahi in this space rest on the shoulders of the very underrepresented groups it's designed to support. And I think if we are to accelerate action and truly make progress and speed up progress, this needs to be something where we can unite everyone around a common goal. And sometimes there's a little bit of division in this space, a bit of us and them. And I think that that's really unhelpful and stops us accelerating progress. So we know that men are still in the majority of positions of power across our organizations and our communities as well. So it makes sense that they are part of this solution. And so engaging everyone in this conversation has been the work that Joe and I have been involved in for the last couple of years. And I think given that we are in International Women's Day week and month, it's an ideal opportunity to talk about how we accelerate action and how we march forward. Kia ora, Joe. So nice to have you here.
Kia ora, Jess. Kia ora tātou katoa, mihi ana kia koutou I tēnei rā. Happy International Women's Day and International Women's Day week. Firstly, I want to acknowledge all the amazing women in my life and that I'm working with, and that are acknowledging that women are facing unique challenges to women that men and other gender identities aren't facing, like menopause, like menstruation, like mental load, like working in a system of patriarchy that has bias, that has discrimination. So I think today is about shining a light on that and acknowledging that. I'm very lucky in my life to have amazing women in my life. Esther, my wife, is such an amazing supporter and challenger and partner to me, and I have a 16-year-old daughter, Chloe, who is doing amazing things in her life as well. And also I want to acknowledge you, Jess. I mean, the work that we do together every day really helps me to learn and grow, and it's really important to me. So thank you, and thank you to and acknowledging all the women that are listening out here today. I think today's about celebrating the contribution of women to our workplaces and our economy, but it also, and this is what we'll be doing today, is taking the opportunity on International Women's Day to shine a light on how we might move in this next phase forward around accelerating action and marching forward. And our kōrero, I think, today is going to be based on how we do that together, moving from accelerating action to collective action, or using collective action to accelerate action in
Yeah.
this space.
Yeah, and I think we are starting to see a shift in this space in terms of the corridor here in Aotearoa around we need to engage everyone in this conversation. And I think historically we've kind of moved from a lot of investment in our underrepresented groups, which has been required, to this message around, hey, stop fixing women and fix the system. And to that, I'm sort of like, yeah and nah, because we've got to support our underrepresented groups to navigate, as you beautifully explained, the difference and the disparities that exist in our worlds and our workplaces at the same time that we fix the system. So for me, it's not an either or, it's a
No,
both.
it's both.
And we support our underrepresented groups whilst we also fix the system. And I think fixing the system is key to accelerating action. And that's how we involve everyone in this mahi, because those in positions of power who are still majority male, they need to be involved in that conversation. And many of them, our experience in the work that we're doing, many of them want to be, right? But they're
Yeah.
just unsure how to navigate the space in a way that doesn't offend or doesn't mean that they're losing out. So, with your experience, how do we involve men in this corridor and how do we help them find their why in this mahi?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and one that we've been working on for the last 2 years. And I think one of the really important things in this mahi is developing a really strong value proposition for men around why this is important, and why this will help men remain relevant and thriving in their career and the roles that they're playing in the workplace. Because the world, and this is the value proposition, that the world of work is changing. with technology disruption, with demographic change, the leaders in the future of work will be those who have inclusive leadership capability, who can create environments where multiple gender identities, uh, generational differences, geographical differences can thrive and drive innovation and adaptation. That leaders that can work well with technology as technology plays a greater role in terms of AI and robotics and some of the technical tasks. And so when we think about the profile of the future leader, it is high emotional intelligence, high collaboration, really inclusive and adaptive leaders. And I think what we're seeing from the conversations that we're having with men is that there is an underlying fear that this world is kind of getting away from them, that the sands under their feet are moving a little bit, and they've been quite comfortable. We've been quite comfortable in our technical skill sets within the roles that we're playing in, and all of a sudden, the demands of us as leaders are really changing. And so, really, inclusive leadership is about broader fit for purpose leadership development for the future of work. And so and that's what we're seeing from where I think through the Mobilize program, where we've uncovered this really latent demand amongst men to tool up around inclusive leadership and move from this fear. This is happening to me. There are targets for women. The diversity, equity, and inclusion movement is reverse discriminating against me now, into how might I step into a space where I can be a contemporary inclusive leader, remain relevant, remain thriving in this future of work, which is really changing. And I think moving from this moral obligation where we're kind of talking at men around, you need to be this morally virtuistic person, to, hey, here is an opportunity for you to remain relevant, to tool up, to really thrive in the future of work. And by doing that, you will create spaces for greater gender equity, because the leadership behaviors that are inherent within inclusive leadership is around advocating for others, creating space, giving voice to others, creating safe space for everyone to thrive. And so I think those two things can happen in harmony with each other, that men can lean in around their inclusive leadership, and by doing that, develop a proposition for themselves around remaining relevant. And when we have a greater proportion of male leaders demonstrating these inclusive leadership behaviors, we will therefore, the outcome of that will be greater gender equity and intersectional inclusion around women of color and people of color and all of the other dimensions of identity. So I think those two things coming together is where we are really going to accelerate action at scale. I'm just convinced that this is the next horizon for inclusion, that when we mobilize our majority groups into this and provide that really compelling why this is important, not just something else to do to go along to a morning tea on International Women's Day, but actively participate in their own leadership development around inclusive leadership. That's when we're going to see the change that we all want to see, which will benefit everyone, men and
Mm.
women and all gender identities and all intersections of identity. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been a really interesting conversation because there are still pockets of fear and scarcity that exist out
Mm,
there, particularly with some of our men. And it's really interesting in the mahi we're doing, where when leaders show up, regardless of gender, with this grounded confidence in who they are and their opportunity and place in the world to support others, they that tends not to come with that fear and scarcity, right? They're in
mm,
such a strong position themselves. They're able to open the door and leave space for others. And the privilege, I guess, of our work is that we get to witness some of those conversations where male leaders find their why in this mahi. And I think the interesting thing for me has been when we talk about creating a culture of inclusion where everybody can bring their best, nobody says, no, that's not a good idea. Everybody's behind
mm,
that work. And I feel like this is what we're talking about. If we're to accelerate action, is creating a place where everyone can belong. And of course, that includes white men, it includes women, it includes those with disabilities, it includes the members of the rainbow community and all those other intersections that make up our diverse, fabulous communities that we want to celebrate and reflect in our workforces and around our leadership tables as well.
Yeah, 100%. And this orientation around inclusion feels more comfortable for organizations, and it's really interesting with everything that's going on in the world geopolitically and the backlash against diversity and inclusion. We're probably seeing a strategic reorientation around inclusion.
Yeah, yeah, oh, 100%. And I think, this is a great week to talk about this, but particularly under the banners of accelerating action and marching forward. Always good to have your thoughts, opinions, on this, Joe. And yeah, I love the work that we're doing in this space and the impact it's making, and love the fact that this is a time of the year that we get to talk more about it and that the spotlight
Mm.
is on this. So for those of you that are interested and want to chat more, head to the website. Feel free to share this video if it's resonated and you think some of your leaders might enjoy watching it. And we'd love to chat more about this cordial, not just this week, but any week of the year.
Kia ora.